Hello everybody, welcome back, good morning. Let's have a look at Ethereum. We're just going to think about Ethereum and altcoins because when alt season, well, the thing is, if Ethereum does actually break out, there is a very good chance of alt season. It actually, probably a significant one, because the dominance chart will be breaking down from a crucial area. The total 2 will be breaking out also from what is currently a bullish area, and obviously Ethereum will be having a nice time on its own. We've seen it before where Bitcoin can sort of stay sideways or even go down, but Ethereum can go up. Now, it's unlikely. It's unlikely that it'll happen just like that because, even though it has happened in the past, the stock market was also relatively good at the time, and I'm not saying it's not good now. It's approaching 6,000, but I do think it's more likely to pull back once again. But if it doesn't, then great. So we're hoping that the stars align to allow this scenario to unfold. Let's just break down Ethereum first to see what's going on here. So at the moment we're sitting above the 20, the 21, the 10 moving average. So we've got bulls are in favour of staying above this exact level right now, which is between 2,577 and 2,534. So really 2,500 we'll call it. And we've got incoming golden crosses, but we don't actually have any. So technically they're still death crosses, including this one from the simple moving average, 200 simple. Bang, bang, bang. A little wick above it, but every candle so far is closed, and even yesterday we hit the death cross again. So resistance sitting at 2,678 and major horizontal 2,800. So the ranges are getting quite tight. The Bollinger Bands are pinching also. 9% between the bottom to the top, which again it's quite a wide range in most charts, but compared to how it was in the past, you can see that the pinching is starting to slow down. When you get the Bollinger Bands pinch, you do get a volatile move, a break, Bollinger Bands pinch, volatile move, break, Bollinger Bands pinch. Which way is it going to go? Well, very difficult to say. So we'll just keep boiling down these different time frames. The bulls have got the weekly, so the bulls are they're putting up a fight, and the weekly gives you supports at 2,400 and 2,250. So we're okay on the weekly, provided we're above those levels. Bollinger Bands aren't quite pinching on a weekly. I suppose it's very uncommon that they do pinch unless it's a very significant part of the market, end of a bear market, we're getting ready for a big breakout, for instance, and we're not looking at that at the moment. But there's no slowing of momentum or money flow on the weekly. In fact, it's just growing with the price action, which, to be fair, on the weekly, so on the higher term timeframes, do favour further upside. So the weekly's got a better setup than the daily. And the 4 hourly was actually quite good as well. So the golden cross down here, which was retested, and then in standard fashion, the retest resulted in a massive bounce, and we've held this area. And now, if we do come down to retest that golden cross once again, price would be 2,400. So tight ranges. In fact, what you could say is Ethereum is in a range itself between 2,400. 2,800. So that's quite good. Let's have a look at Ethereum to Bitcoin, shall we, to see what's the difference, because there's not a great deal of difference, to be honest with you. There is a trend of sorts, which technically has broken out on all time frames. You've got two drives hidden bullish divergence, which led to this last low, the low that basically has not yet gone lower. Moved into the horizontal, which is fine, and just above that horizontal is a death cross, 0.0279 sats. Overheated read on the money flow index here, cooled off nicely, so I think we're ready to see a move back up again. So that's how it would appear, that we've formed a low, got a high. Maybe we retest a lower high, maybe 0.023. And bounce from there, and the weekly not too different to that of the tether pair. So we've moved above the 20 moving average, but rejected on the 21. So really, there's a line in the sand here. 0.026, close above there. You should be looking for a nice base to be built, And from there, you could look to see nothing more than a death cross retest on a weekly. That could be the 50 exponential, 0.329, or 0.468, or maybe even 0.57. Which, if any of those were to get hit, would be a decent move in themselves. That would be a 33, that would be a 90, and this would be a 129% move versus its Bitcoin pair. So the top move is more than double for you to put Bitcoins into Ethereum at this point. And again, this is a bearish scenario, but bulls can deal with it. Are we looking for a full reversal on this? Not with this current setup, we're not. Are we looking for a death cross retest and then a lower high? Yeah, probably. And at its top level, it's over 100%. So that would be quite nice. Let's have a think about the total 2, which again, I've got my projection on here. The projection has been unchanged for a couple of years. We're getting closer and closer to it. We formed a lower high, which is also part of the golden cross retest. We've reclaimed the 20 and the 21. In fact, all moving averages on the weekly, so the higher term timeframes do favour continuation in this direction. Further up, probably new all-time high, but at least a double tap of the previous high, maybe a triple top, but give or take 1.6, 1.7 trillion. So a fair bit of move to go on this one between now and some point this year. I reckon sooner rather than later, to be honest with you. So the odds are in favour of that based on the weekly. The weekly is again, the most likely chart set up to continue up. And to be honest with you, in a lot of ways, so is the daily. The daily's got the golden cross retest, which again, you've seen this, you saw it on Ethereum. We see it on millions of charts. Golden crosses, once retested, gives you the opportunity to get in at a lower level. And if it breaks down, so be it. At least you got in from the lowest possible level. Most of the time, again, most, not all, most of the time you do result in a V-shaped recovery back to where you started from and then some. So that's what we're looking for in the total 2. So Ethereum weekly, Ethereum 4 hourly, not so much daily, total 2 weekly, total 2 daily, all saying the chances are we resolve to the upside, and actually have already put the low in. Moving over to the 4 hourly, this is not bearish, but it's not completely bullish. It's a bit weak. We've not crossed out the golden cross, but the moving averages are all blending into one, which normally makes it a little harder to make any kind of trade. Not that you can trade the total 2 itself anyway. It's more of an indicator for all the altcoins. But I like the way it looks. But the 4 hourly makes me a little worried in the short term. And speaking of short term, the main problem I've got with any short term is the 4 hourly on the S&P or the US 500, so the pre-market to the S&P, which is currently up. So it's open and it's flat, so it's unchanged at the moment. If this pulls back, the top of the box, 5,700, 5,650. And what I was saying last night on the Patreon is that, we might see a pullback on this one, and this could just bounce from any one of these areas. So if we pulled back, we're talking between 3 and 5, so give or take 4, we'll say. 4% pullback was still actually okay. The 4 hourly could get caught on the golden cross, get sat into somewhere in this box. The box is supported by the top of a range, which we've seen in the past. The bottom of a range, again, which we've seen in the past. And the top is highlighted by a 50 exponential. The bottom, it's close to the 200. And if we move over to the weekly, you can see that there's other moving averages that support this box as well. So you've got the 50 exponential, the 200, the 50. Then up here you've got the 20, the 21, and the 10. They're all offering support. So we're looking for, maybe if you do get a pullback on the S&P, and it might not happen, but if we do get one, it'll be about 4%. So if you think about this in how markets work, or these markets, you've got 4% pullback. You double that for something like Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, you're talking 8%. Maybe you're talking 10 to 12% for Ethereum, and then you're talking 15 to 20% for altcoins. So you might be looking at a max paid of 20% for some altcoins if the S&P pulls back by 4 or 5. It's just the way of the world, I'm afraid. However, if we break and start closing above 6,000, we're probably going on to a new all-time high relatively quick, and the markets will also respond appropriately. And all of the good stuff will happen this month. We're the 5th at the moment. Probably by the 30th, you could all be significantly richer. Significantly. This could be one of the periods where you get that kind of alt season, if you want to call it that. I know that that's not a very popular word to say. We need to think of something else. something less offensive, something less emotive. But yeah, I mean, for want of a better word, altcoins outperformed Bitcoin for a certain period of time. I suppose you can call that an alt season. We've had them in the past. They don't last very long. 5 or 6 weeks, perhaps, maybe, if we get that sort of move. What we're going to think about last before we go is the old Bitcoin dominance. And the dominance is still above all moving averages, but it's still sort of curling down a little bit. We had bearish divergence, you had overheated read, you had bearish divergence here. We've not had it here. We are sort of just quietly consolidating. You lose this area, you got this. Lose this area, you got this. Lose this area, you got this. You lose this area, you got this. 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 It does seem like something that's never going to happen. But I remember this as well. You know, we saw it. This was never going to happen. Bitcoin's always going to go up. It's never going to go down. It goes down. The Bitcoin dominance goes down. Oh, this is tragic. This is terrible. It's never going to go down. 73% dominance on this occasion. Bang. And just like, you know, as you would expect with an alt season, they happen fast. They do happen fast and swift. So if this were to happen between now and September, which is my general expectation, if it were to happen, it would happen fast. You know, it goes up all this time. Small consolidation, goes straight back up, fast, and a slow grind all the way back up. It seems unrealistic, doesn't it? But it's not. But it can happen, and I'm not saying that it will, but it can certainly happen. Previously, though, this chart was always a bearish chart, really, because it was born. Yeah, it didn't really exist here. It's just a reference point. None of this really meant much, but it has become a bullish chart since about a year ago. It's effectively a big bullish chart, but there are signs and signals that we could be breaking down, and in dominance fashion, a breakdown could be fast. Right, so I am going to leave it with you there. I am going to leave it with you there. There is nothing else to say. It's a slow market, but that is crypto. Crypto is a slow market with periods of extremely fast movement. So at the moment, we're still living within the slow portion of the market, and we're hoping that these setups that we see resolve to the upside rather than the downside. Although there is evidence for both directions, and there's also other things that are playing on behind the altcoin charts, which is S&P stocks, Bitcoin as well. But there is enough evidence on the high-term timeframes, that being the weekly, that we are going to resolve this to the upside. The only problem is, do we see that pullback that I was talking about first, or do we not? Either way, the weekly favours further upside for altcoins, believe it or not. Maybe not your altcoin, but for the altcoin market being the total two. Right, I'll leave it with you there. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.